Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I got this thing from AMC theater, local, and you get these cards. It's kind of nice, little collectible things, and you actually get a little background stuff on the characters. The main villain being Kingpin. Apparently, Green Goblin was a side thing. I don't know if you could see it. And then Gwen Stacy. These Spider-Woman, or even though she's referred to more as Spider-Gwen in the comics, I really love this film, guys. I'm not gonna lie. And I wish I could freaking fix my situation here. I'm gonna try to do that instead here. Let me fix this. Fuck it. It's as good as it gets, guys. So, sorry if it seemed towering, but yeah, that's what's gonna have to happen here. So, and maybe if I fix this a little bit. No, it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. Maybe, wait. It's a little better. Alright, guys, so, yeah. And, Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse, I think this might very well be the best Spider-Man film. I mean, sure, we can still give Homecoming for live action. But as far as I'm concerned, this film just offers so much more to Spider-Man fans, and I would compare this film to the likes of The Way, and it's kind of funny given that the involvement of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. This film, I guess, happened after the whole incident with the Disney and their thing. And this was more of an executive producer thing. They weren't exactly the head of the place. The directors or anything. It's like 3 different people. I couldn't really even remember to tell you, but which I guess it's kind of a common thing, I guess, when it comes to animated features, I guess, with having multiple directors as opposed to having one, but to some extent, I guess. And it's just, it fucking works. It fucking works. Like, in the same way as how both Civil War and Infinity War are. Like, how Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War are. And I've read the Spider-Verse comics. I mean, I have them in my closet. I mean, but I'll just show you how much I truly am a Spider-Man fan. I mean, I got these, which I still have yet to read, I'll be honest. And yeah, even to the point where I actually kind of like the Spider-Gwen character. One of the few characters that I actually liked and enjoyed coming out of reading the Spider-Verse comics series. So, don't tell me I'm not no Spider-Man fan, and don't tell me that I'm not going to lie and say there isn't a sense of bias about this, but it's not even that. Everyone, just people who are fans of who may have been fatigued from the comic book things, or just how much they've been doing the Spider-Man stuff, even though Homecoming was great. What we got out of him in from what we got to see of him in Infinity War was also great, as well as within, Captain America Civil War. But, but yeah. And, like, basically ever since this, we started getting, for the most part, aside from the whole Venom thing, which I have yet to see, to be honest, so, my pedal board. And, not clear my throat there. Yeah, I enjoyed this film. Like, those films are the best, that I had mentioned earlier, are the best ways to describe this film, because honestly, there isn't really anything other way to describe this film at all. Aside from it really, like everyone else is saying, this comic come to life, it truly, all the characters are represented to the best. The Stan Lee cameo in here could possibly bring you to tears. It didn't or at least move you in some way, which it does. Even though I'm also hearing that the Once Upon a Deadpool thing, that's that PG-13 thing for Deadpool 2. I'm hearing that one's pretty heart-wrenching. I haven't seen it, so I can't really say on that, because I've already seen Deadpool 2, and it's better, essentially. Even I can just wait and see the nice little stuff they had added into this as one little short little compilation thing on a YouTube somewhere, more than likely. Or maybe just wait until they finally decide to release a Christmas bundle for this thing, which I'm guessing they may just release this Tuesday. Who knows? Without us even knowing about it. Or the following day, which would be even following Tuesday, which actually, no, this coming Tuesday would be even. Or the following Tuesday would be more ironic given it'd be Christmas Day. So I don't know how that would work, given it's kind of a holiday and that kind of. Well, anyway. I love this thing. This film not only rocks, it is certified master class. It is awesome. I still, even despite some of the subject matter that does happen to be in this, I would take kids to see it. Miles Morales, first time his story finally comes to life for the most part in the big screen, and to the extent of certain things that happen in this film, with certain character develop has the biggest character arc of this entire thing, and it pays off well. The moments he has that primarily are the characters that you follow more so, which is of course Spider-Woman, the Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman, and they did some portions of the origin that was necessary to be right. The Peter B. Parker is essentially similar to this one, except, like we mostly know of him, he has brown hair, though he's scruffy because, at that particular portion, before he winds up kind of in a more of a homeless situation, and he just makes a bad choice. It just makes him good. Just unfortunately did not make the best of choices. And some of this reasoning, you're kind of like, what the hell, dude? Seriously? And plus it doesn't, it's just him kind of going from a downward spiral and him getting caught up in this mess. And, as opposed to what had happened with him and it's even crazier, which this version that you follow mostly is from the Peter B. Parker's is Jake Johnson. And we thought he was still going to voice over this one, but the bigger surprise is Chris Pine, who's voicing the Peter Parker that we are more come to know to start with. That's from the same universe as Miles. That eventually something happens and leads to him. And if you're a comic book fan, you'll kind of already know this anyway. And that's the thing that maybe might be an issue, is the sense that if you're already a comic book fan and you know this, I feel like that actually adds more enjoyment, because at least you're seeing the things you've known from reading these comic books, these even more recent ones, and they're seeing it finally being played out on the big screen in the best way they possibly can. With what if they could to make this as cohesive and just, it's just center, and it's just, the fact that it's just mind-boggling how this works so damn well. And now the spoilers portion in 3, 2, 1. They basically tackle Death of Spider-Man. To start this, within the beginning of this film, Kingpin basically kills him. And Miles, Miles is right there and he sees this. So that really, messes with, really plays a part in him, especially given that he's basically tasked to fix this problem he had created. He basically just which kind of, that's a lot to put on a teenage kid who's already going through just finding out about his powers and stuff. And the bigger even thing is the arachnids, 42 is it's on the number of the spider that bites Miles Morales, which is even more ironic given 42 is the number of Jackie Robinson. And there's also certain things apparently with the numbers 4 for Chance the Rapper, and it's something where something happens with him, and I guess that leads to him it looking like forming them doing something that forms the number 4, and they're consisting of 2 Spider-Men. So almost kind of also referencing that number as well, I guess. But I'll be honest, that thing I missed until I kind of thought about it. But I mean, and the spider suits in this thing, all of them, including one that looks like the cloak of levitation that Doctor Strange has. Like, I guess there was a storyline where he became Sorcerer Supreme for a brief period. I guess. I mean, I must have missed something. I really must have missed something. Jeez. Whew. Oh man, it's so late trying to do this. But I really just, oh yes. So good. So good. Just I loved how they handled the dynamic between the Peter B and him, as well as even the one that having died and him playing an impact, and it basically pushing him to try to become Spider-Man further. And his power set, Miles' power set is accurate. His heritage as a Brooklyn kid who's basically a Latin/African American, and he's, oh man, I also just the way they handled and his relationship with his dad, his mom. His mom's Latina. His dad's an African American, and he's a cop, which makes it even more interesting given his role as Spider-Man. And it seems they've kind of have a distance thing, and even more so, he despite how small time he have with his dad, they do give him some form of character development, especially given his relationship towards his brother, who is his uncle, which they do eventually reveal at some point he's Prowler, which I already kind of knew that from what I've read up on and looked up on and long ago, and even read up on when it came to the comic book storyline for him and his specific ultimate run Miles would have following Death of Spider-Man storyline, which was actually what needed to change that thing up, because there was some decline in sales, and plus some people were kind of, I get that they needed a teenage Peter Parker, but there was already a Peter Parker there, and it made sense for them to just get a new character in place of him, since we already have a Peter Parker in the main universe, Earth 616 thing, and I don't think Ultimate Universe is Earth 42, because that could be a reference. I don't think so. I think it's like Earth 1000 something. But anyway, I really just, and the Spider-Woman Gwen Stacy, and that version, especially given that instead of, for those who've already seen Amazing Spider-Man 2, or even bothered to, y'all already seen the Death of Gwen Stacy thing, and it's kind of a reverse situation, though in the comics, Peter's kind of the Lizard in that world. Wow. And mostly because she's more inspired by, and it's of course winds up being, of course, having been Gwen's boyfriend, like so and so, we know in the how it was in the comics, so the main universe to a certain degree, and she was more inspired, and he wanted to be able to be like her, and it eventually led to that. Though they don't touch on that, but of course the main thing that pushed her through dealing with stuff was Peter's death. So that was something tackled that they talked about. Apparently Aunt May we see that the Peter B. Parker is the same thing, except he's basically a hobo at this point, and he had everything, kind of like this one, but it just things happened to where Aunt May had died, and he lost her, but we find out later that it's because of some fact that he just didn't want kids, and I think. And I'm glad that eventually, by the end of the whole thing, they eventually resolved it, and his time with Miles helped with that. And I love how they tried to focus on them two together in a way that's similar to the Spider-Man comic storyline, which came long before the Spider-Verse thing that is the story that inspired this hence into the Spider-Verse. And I really do the fact that they even referenced all forms of media. They kind of, the fact that this is the ultimate fanfiction melting pot. Or at least Spider-Man fanservicey melting pot. And I loved it for it, and it has a good cohesive story, and it's definitely an interesting twist on an origin story, but it's more so a different origin story in the sense of being Miles Morales. But we also know other characters' origins to a degree, or at least they kind of cut it short to the point where we're invested in them, and we care about these characters. Granted, half of the ones are more supporting, that are clearly in the more supporting, the Noir, Spider-Ham, and I guess Penny, the Japanese anime robot version of it. The Spider-Mech, I guess. A pseudo version of the Spider-Mech character. I guess in that, with the Penny Parker, and just all that stuff. It's a weird anime tale thing to it, where it's somehow the girl doesn't exactly have powers, but because she's bitten by it, she's gained a psychic link to the spider, which somehow is kind of also involved in the suit of the thing, kind of controlling the AI of the robot, both of them together, and it's weird, but not nearly as Looney Tunes level weird as Spider-Ham's story, which is even more ridiculous because of things like how do I put this? It's more ridiculous because he's literally just a spider that got bitten by a radioactive pig. So this is just going to be bonkers, and plus you get some Looney Tunes stuff of a mallet, and even to the point where he references Looney Tunes, more specifically Porky Pig. That's all, folks. I mean, at one point, before he leaves to go back to the other dimension. And, he finally fixes things to where he helps them get back to their dimensions, and then eventually tries to fix the portal completely, which was the whole thing that started this whole thing with this storyline. But I love the fact that this opens up a completely different idea of a universe, and in its own right, in a way that's more welcoming, and it's not as so clustered and in your face about it, and it definitely has that more comic booky feel to it in the right and best ways possible for what has been given, and they're for the most part what matters at its core for each Spider-Man and woman, or is in their foundation that was already in the comics, is here as well. There's very little complaints. They don't super dive into certain elements of things that led to those things, but they do enough. They do enough, except for, and those that, especially for, even though Spider-Gwen is probably, of the three main, is probably a little less developed compared to what we kind of get out of the Peter B. Parker, which essentially is no different from the Peter Parker that wound up dead, which that Parker is blonde, which is, by the way, a reference more so to Ben O'Reilly, the clone Peter Parker from the one from the Clone Saga. That's kind of considered a big storyline within the comic books, but some people kind of are a little iffy on it and consider it kind of the weakest of storylines. And given something like Spider-Verse, I can't say, especially given that it is a great enough source material that they were able to make a movie out of it and make it work here. Yes, I can't say I don't blame them. So for me, I just, and I loved how they handled it, and everything, even like, even the Stan Lee cameo in here was great. And even though some of the things that were said, it just, I mean, it was already apparently shown. I'm told it was shown earlier this year at Comic Con, and when you see it here, now that Stan Lee having passed away recently, this, and from what I hear about Once Upon a Deadpool, are considered to be some of the, which that one's more intentional. This one just kind of, sort of, in a weird way, given that it kind of happened long before, at least this cameo having happened long before whatever happened with, long before he was even considered to have died. And I'm sure you could kind of take things about it being similar in elements to what the shows, even the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series of recent, that had Drake Bell voicing. I don't know if he still does in the recent Spider-Man thing that they've got going that I've not even bothered to keep up with. I've barely even caught up with whatever heck happened with that Ultimate Spider-Man series. But, I just... yeah. I just... wow. And even the post-credit scene with apparently Miguel O'Hara, the 2099 Spider-Man, who's also technically the first true Latin American Spider-Man. Full on, at least. More so full on ish. Or at least he's part white. I don't know. I guess. But he's definitely one of the better, more known in the Latin part of the things. I mean, with a name like Miguel, you know. But compared to Miles Morales, and I think like a lot of people are going to be invested in his character and are going to be more interested in what is said with him. I cannot wait to see what happens in it. I've come out of this film and even I want to see somewhat of a sequel to this. I'm hearing that if with even things going well, there's a potential possibility of greenlighting a Spider-Woman storyline, so possibly we'll get to see Spider-Gwen again, maybe some other characters like Silk or something. The Gwen Stacy one, there's some other Spider-Women from similar the second incarnation is the one I forgot, Jessica Drew, I believe, is one that actually became a pretty popular one, even with recently in her character's pregnancy thing. But I definitely enjoyed this. I also enjoyed that little cameo, and the cameo was sort of part of the meme thing of the Spider-Man Doppelganger from the original TV series that gave us the theme song. The only thing that, and there's some nitpicks, but they're not even worth mentioning. Though if I did have one that's more of a personal thing to me, especially given Spider-Ham's in this, there's a missed opportunity to pull the Simpson movie joke in this one that would have been awesome. Spider-Pig, Spider-Pig, does whatever Spider-Pig does. I'd have rolled on the floor even more than the pointing thing. That's like, you stop pointing, and just, oh my gosh. I mean, it got ridiculous, but it was worth it. And I love the storyline. The Prowler thing, like I said, was huge. Huge, dude. Huge part of the storyline. And that actually made me cry. I think I kind of cried when it came to the Infinity War end scene. And I probably would now cry even more so with what happened with Groot and that. Not since Infinity War, actually. Or even Logan, for that matter. But I cried for a long while. It took me a little bit after the scenes especially when it came, like, it took me a little bit later in the officer scenes for me to just snap out of that. It was intense. The deaths are intense here. And that one had a payoff to it because you were already attached from earlier in the film with Miles and his relationship towards his uncle. You already had enough of a dynamic that by that point it felt, and the way that was handled and how he came across, Prowler character, was earned. And I feel like this kind of replaced, is the one big thing that was different that actually works within the film's context, that kind of replaces what actually happened in the comic books, and that was more so the death of his own mother, who's still alive in this, thank goodness. Just more so like the recent comic book reboot thing they tried to do. But, yeah. Overall, I still like this. What did you guys think? Leave a comment below, let me know. For Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Rock that like button with the rest of you must if you like this video. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you in the next video, probably the Snowdown one. Can't wait for Spectacular on that. I guess Aquaman, I'll probably do one. I'm still kind of between doing certain things, and I'm still kind of needing to catch up on some things, including best end of year lists. For both for the movies and music. So, and amongst some personal stuff. So, yeah. And that's about it, guys. So, what did you guys think? Leave a comment below. Let me know. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I will see you in the next video. Once more, take care, y'all. And please, for the love of God, go see this. Seriously, it's worth your time. It's even worth the fact that I kind of wound up spilling soda on accidentally somehow from trying to fill up a drink and on one of my clothes that it happened to be white, which sucks. Hard to get out. But, you know, after seeing that film, this was before going into it. Yeah, now after seeing it, makes it worth it. Trust me on that. Take care, y'all.